The American Revolution wasn't just a fight for independence, it was the spark for a global war. From the forests of North America to the courts of Europe, nations clashed, empires shifted, and the fate of a continent was rewritten. Fought between 1775 and 1783, the American Revolutionary War was far more than a colonial rebellion. It became a conflict that drew in the greatest empires of the 18th century. Over 230,000 soldiers fought for the Continental Army, with another 145,000 local militia members supporting the effort. On the British side, more than 56,000 regular troops, along with German mercenaries and Native American allies, attempted to crush the uprising. But the war quickly escalated beyond North America. France, Spain, and the Dutch Republic entered the conflict, seeking to weaken Britain and secure their own geopolitical interests. French forces, in particular, played a decisive role in battles like the Siege of Yorktown, where 12,000 soldiers and 30,000 sailors helped force the British surrender. In total, the war saw over 25,000 American casualties and 24,000 British losses. We'll display the global scope of the conflict, from North America to Europe and the high seas, illustrating how the American Revolution reshaped the balance of power across the world. Following the end of the French and Indian War in 1763, tensions began to rise between Britain and its American colonies, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. The British government, facing a massive war debt, implemented a series of taxes and regulations on the colonies, including the Stamp Act in 1765 and the Townshend Acts in 1767. These taxes were imposed without colonial input, leading to the rallying cry of "no taxation without representation," as the colonies had no representatives in the British Parliament. This perceived violation of their rights sparked widespread protests among the colonists. In response, groups like the Sons of Liberty formed, organizing acts of resistance such as the Boston Tea Party in 1773. Britain retaliated with harsh punitive laws, known as the Coercive Acts of 1774, which only deepened the divide. Colonial leaders from the 13 colonies convened the First Continental Congress later that year to address grievances, but efforts to find a peaceful resolution failed. By 1775, the stage was set for armed conflict as the colonies increasingly moved toward independence. By 1775, tensions between Britain and its American colonies reached a breaking point. On April 19, 1775, British troops were dispatched from Boston to seize colonial military supplies stored in Concord, Massachusetts. However, colonial militias, warned by riders like Paul Revere, mobilized to intercept them. The confrontation began in Lexington, where the British and colonial militia faced off. A shot, later called the shot heard round the world, was fired, though it's unclear which side initiated the conflict. This marked the first exchange of gunfire in the American Revolution. The British pushed forward to Concord, where they encountered heavier resistance. As British forces retreated to Boston, colonial militias harassed them along the way, inflicting significant casualties. This skirmish ignited the American Revolutionary War, uniting the 13 colonies in their fight against British rule. Lexington and Concord symbolized the start of open rebellion, leading to the rapid escalation of the conflict. Following the battles of Lexington and Concord, the Second Continental Congress convened in May 1775 and formally established the Continental Army, appointing George Washington as its commander-in-chief. The army, initially composed of about 15,000 soldiers, faced challenges of training and resources, but was unified under Washington's leadership. In June 1775, the Battle of Bunker Hill took place, with around 2,400 colonial militia confronting 3,000 British troops under the command of General William Howe. Although the British took the hill, they suffered over 1,000 casualties, nearly half their forces. proving that the colonial forces could stand up to the British Army. Washington soon arrived in Boston to oversee the siege, where approximately 15,000 colonial troops surrounded 11,000 British soldiers led by George Thomas Gage. By March 1776, Washington's strategic deployment of captured artillery forced Gage and the British to evacuate the city, marking a key early victory for the Continental Army. As the war progressed, the political stakes escalated. On July 4, 1776, the Continental Congress adopted the Declaration of Independence. Primarily authored by Thomas Jefferson, the document declared the colonies as free and independent states, severing all political ties with Britain. The Declaration outlined the philosophical basis for independence, emphasizing natural rights such as life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The British government, led by King George III, saw this as a blatant act of treason, leading to increased military efforts to crush the rebellion. Internationally, the declaration caught the attention of France and Spain, both eager to weaken Britain. France, in particular, began increasing its covert support for the American cause, a move that would soon lead to formal military alliances. The declaration marked a pivotal moment in transforming the war into a global conflict. The Battle of Saratoga in 1777 wasn't just a military victory, it was a diplomatic game-changer. British General John Burgoyne's attempt to divide the colonies failed when American forces, led by General Horatio Gates and Benedict Arnold, secured a decisive victory. Burgoyne's surrender of over 5,000 troops marked the first major defeat for the British Army and shifted the momentum of the war. This victory had immediate diplomatic consequences. France had been watching the conflict closely, seeking any opportunity to weaken its longtime rival, Britain. Saratoga convinced France that the American cause was viable, leading to a formal alliance in 1778. France supplied soldiers, ships, and financial aid, critical for the colonial war effort. Spain and the Dutch Republic, both with their own grievances against Britain and colonial ambitions, soon followed. Spain sought to reclaim lost territories and weaken British influence in the Americas, while the Dutch Republic had economic and political motivations, including protecting trade routes. Saratoga transformed the conflict into a global war, with Britain now facing powerful European rivals as well as the American colonies. As the war dragged on, Britain shifted its focus to the southern colonies, believing there was stronger loyalist support there and hoping to regain momentum. In 1778, British forces captured Savannah, Georgia, and soon after, Charleston, South Carolina, in 1780, dealing a significant blow to the American forces. Under the command of General Charles Cornwallis, British troops began a brutal campaign in the South, targeting key rebel strongholds. The southern theater of the war was marked by a combination of large battles and guerrilla warfare. American forces, led by Generals Nathaniel Greene and Daniel Morgan, used hit-and-run tactics to wear down the British. The Battle of Kings Mountain in 1780 and the Battle of Cowpens in 1781 were major victories for the Americans, demonstrating the effectiveness of these tactics. Despite British control of key cities, the countryside remained fiercely resistant. The war in the South set the stage for the final showdown. The Siege of Yorktown in 1781 was the decisive battle that effectively ended major fighting in the American Revolutionary War. British General Charles Cornwallis, after his campaign in the South, moved his forces to Yorktown, Virginia, seeking resupply and reinforcements from the British Navy. However, this plan failed due to a crucial naval engagement. The French fleet, under Admiral François de Grasse, played a vital role by blocking the Chesapeake Bay, preventing British naval forces from reaching Cornwallis. In the Battle of the Chesapeake, the French fleet defeated a British fleet commanded by Admiral Thomas Graves, ensuring British troops in Yorktown were cut off from escape or support. On land, General George Washington and French General Comte de Rochambeau led 17,000 American and French troops in a siege that eventually forced Cornwallis to surrender on October 19, 1781. Following the decisive American and French victory at Yorktown in 1781, peace negotiations between Britain and the American colonies began. After 2 years of complex discussions, the Treaty of Paris was signed on September 3, 1783, formally ending the American Revolutionary War. Representing the United States were John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, and John Jay. David Hartley, signing on behalf of King George III and the British government, represented Britain. The agreement recognized the independence of the United States and established its borders, stretching from the Atlantic Ocean to the Mississippi River and from Canada to Spanish Florida. The Treaty of Paris had significant geopolitical consequences. Britain lost its 13 American colonies, drastically reducing its influence in North America, while France and Spain gained territory and prestige. The United States faced the enormous task of building a new government, eventually leading to the creation of the U.S. Constitution in 1787. The revolution may have ended in victory, but its legacy lives on. The ideals of freedom, equality, and independence continue to influence the world today. The story of the American Revolution is just the beginning of a much larger tale of global change. Thank you for watching our journey through the American Revolution and its global impact. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to activate the notification bell. See you next time.